The year is 1099, and on the eve of the First Crusade, victory is at hand. The Crusaders have liberated Jerusalem in the name of their God. The church bells ring, and jubilation is heard through the streets. Little do these celebrants know, something much darker and much more infernal is about to be unleashed. War that would make even the Great Crusade pale in comparison. As the crowds cheer, a group of Templar find an ancient evil, and overcome by their greed and lust for power, they're about to unleash the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. Welcome to Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade is a tabletop game much along the lines of Warhammer. It is based in an alternate timeline of the Great War. In 1914, a world war is raging, though it's not the one we are familiar with. This war is not that of man versus man. This is a war between the faithful of heaven and those from the fiery pits of hell itself. This is a war for mankind, and in this dark world, the church and hellish servants battle for dominance in the trench warfare of the early 20th century. The world of Trench Crusade is steeped in lore, and that's what I'll be covering today. This is only the beginning of a series on Trench Crusade, and is intended as a starting point for you to familiarise yourself with the setting and history of this world. This video will only be a broad overview of the key points and factions that exist in the world of Trench Crusade. So, without further ado, let's dive into the history of the Great Crusade. The world and history of Trench Crusade follows our own until the year 1099 and the end of the First Crusade. The First Crusade was started in 1096 and concluded with the taking of Jerusalem in 1099. It was a war waged by the European Christian nations against the Muslim forces that lived there. In our world, when Jerusalem fell, the Crusade ended, and the Crusader kingdoms were established. However, in this alternate history, a change to the timeline occurred. Following the conquest of the Holy City, a group of Templar found in the bowels of the city an unholy artifact. This group of Templars strayed from their path and began to worship the relic, following the commands of the demons inside. They performed cursed rituals and demonic acts. This was known as the Act of the First Heresy. Shortly after, an event known as the Ultimate Heresy is committed. This opens the very gates of hell itself in the Holy City, destroying it. This forces the Crusaders to retreat from the city, and Jerusalem became a depraved pit, where hell and our mortal plane now bled into one. 3 years later, in 1101, the Year of Three Battles took place. This event was fought between the Crusaders and heretics, humans who were now loyal to the forces of hell, and reinforcements from the Third Circle. These battles resulted in the retreat of the church forces and the conquest of the Levant, modern-day Israel, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon and Jordan, by the hellish armies. As a result, the ancient city of Antioch was fortified and became the focal point of resistance against the forces of hell. 8 years later, in 1109, as the forces of hell encroached on Muslim territories to the east, the Divine intervened. The Great Iron Wall of Iskandar emerged, materializing to stop the heretic forces. This was followed by the establishment of the Great Sultanate of the Invincible Iron Wall of the Two Horns that Pierce the Sky. This will be called the Iron Sultanate for my sanity. In the coming decades, it unifies the Islamic nations. 8 years later, in the year 1117, the legendary 17 martyrs travelled to the earthly domains of hell to convert the heretics. Captured, tortured, and kept in a perpetual state of agony, they remain trapped within white-hot brazen bulls to this day. This spurred a push in the faithful forces to help these martyrs. In the east, in 1165, the Old Man in the Mountain and his Hashashins defend the mountain fortress of Alamut. This castle stands to this very day, despite being besieged for hundreds of years. Between the years 1215 and 1306, a major string of wars known as the Wars of Triclavianism split the church. Infighting occurs for nearly a century, and not much is known about these wars, but their weakening of the church allowed for the heretic forces to expand their domain. Between the years 1346 and 1353, Beelzebub, one of the key archdemons of hell, released his demonic weapon known as the Black Grail. This infects the faithful and turns them into accursed reanimated forces, fighting for their lords and the Lord of Flies. The timeline follows that of the Black Death in our timeline, but unlike the Black Death, this leads to the events known as the Corpse Wars. These wars raged until the living saint, Joan of Arc, drove the Black Grail from mainland Europe in the year 1429. A major development occurs in 1503 when war prophet Angelos, guided by Saint Eligius, discovers the formula for orichalcum steel. Though extremely costly to produce, the metal proves to be effective against all missile weapons and is still used to this day. This steel powers the faithful forces, helping them combat the heretic legions far more effectively. 40 years later, the great fortress city of Antioch was destroyed utterly by means of an infernal device in the year 1545. This was a major blow to the faithful forces. However, they vowed to restore Antioch to its former glory. This would be the new stronghold of the faithful forces, and would be even greater than the last. New Antioch was completed in the year 1595, 50 years after the desolation of the original. In the year 1666, the Heretic Fleet, a demonic navy, built in secret, in a surprise raid and captured Gibraltar. This becomes the headquarters of the Heretic Fleet and Heretic Army against the European forces. In response to the Heretic Fleet gaining access to the Atlantic, the Crown of England begins the construction of the fortress walls of the White Cliffs. Over the next 2 centuries, the Heretic Legion gains ground in the Middle East, and the Heretic Navy plagues the coasts of Europe. This comes along with technological advancement, and victories of the Heretic Fleet against the British Navy. By the year 1866, in the utmost secrecy, heretic scientists, aided by the demon Marbus, construct the first modern submarines. And in 1870, the heretic submarine fleet launched from Gibraltar, extracting a heavy toll and causing widespread famine in Europe. With this success, in 1872, the city of Rijeka is sieged and taken. It is fortified and heretic conquest is launched against the European mainland. This would lead to the Year of the Broken Trinity in 1894. The Death Commandos, a new and deadly force of the heretics, simultaneously assassinated the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Aelia, and the Holy Roman Emperor. The faithful are thrown into turmoil. The Heretic Legions, commanded by Hell's nobles of the Seventh Circle, and a huge vanguard of tanks launch in simultaneous lightning offensives in the Levant and Europe. However, the Church and the faithful would regain land with successes such as the Church Space Program of 1899 and the completion of the moving Fortress of Britannia in 1907. They fought the heretics to a stalemate in the Battle of Cordoba, where despite heavy artillery from the heretic forces devastating the city, they failed to get access to the heartlands of Hispania. And this leads us to the present day, the year of our Lord 1914. Both sides are preparing for major offensive operations. In the huge swaths of no man's land, furious skirmishes and raids increase in intensity as the faithful and heretics vie for information, powerful relics, and securing strategically important positions. This is the world you find yourself in, the world of Trench Crusade. Now, you must sally out and face the forces of hell as a faithful soldier of God, or do your Dark Lord's evil bidding as a heretic. But first, you must decide who you will fight for. From here on, I'll be discussing the factions of Trench Crusade in brief detail to give you an idea of which faction you would want to ally yourself with. This will not go into their units or strengths and weaknesses, only their lore. More in-depth videos on each faction will be coming soon, but this video is, as I said, just to familiarize yourself with the setting. So, with that, let us take a look at the factions. Firstly, the strongest faction of the faithful forces, the last bastion in the hellish plains on earth, the Principality of New Antioch. The Principality of New Antioch serves as the linchpin of the faithful resistance against Hell's legions. Standing on the threshold of the Gate of Hell, for over 3 centuries it has been a bulwark of hope and faith, playing a crucial role in the Great War. Despite its proximity to the demonic gateway, New Antioch remains unconquered, embodying the resilience and unity of the faithful. The original city of Antioch was destroyed in 1545 by a devastating demonic weapon. However, the faithful refused to abandon the ruins. In 1559, the Sword Congress of Vienna decreed its reconstruction as a fortified city. Supplies and reinforcements from across Europe, Africa, and the Mediterranean kept the city alive, though these routes are constantly under threat from heretic raids and infiltrators. This shared effort has turned New Antioch into the most significant fortress city in the faithful's arsenal, symbolizing their collective defiance against Hell's might. New Antioch is protected by monumental walls adorned with 77 towers, which have withstood 8 major sieges. Embedded in these walls are metallic battle shrines known as anchorites, each housing a devoted soldier entombed within to keep eternal vigil. These structures play a vital role in the city's defences, ensuring constant readiness against any assault. Despite this formidable infrastructure, the city's survival is precarious. It relies heavily on the disunity among Hell's archdevils, who frequently plot against each other, delaying large-scale invasions. Within New Antioch, a bustling and diverse population thrives. Soldiers from every corner of Christendom, from Polish hussars to Ethiopian warriors and Irish preachers, contribute to the city's defense. The city's streets echo with a cacophony of languages, reflecting the unity of the faithful against a common enemy. Volunteers arrive daily to serve under the banner of Christ, bolstering the city's ranks. Factories and foundries operate incessantly, churning out tanks, artillery, and other war materials. The church's techno-laboratories create communicants, superhuman soldiers empowered by the cloned flesh of the Redeemer. Statues throughout the city commemorate the sacrifices of workers who perish in these efforts, highlighting the heavy toll of war. The Duke of New Antioch is the nominal commander of all faithful forces, a position of immense prestige and responsibility. However, troops often follow the commands of their individual leaders, reflecting the fragmented nature of the faithful's military. Despite this, the standing army of New Antioch remains the faithful's largest and most cohesive force. Smaller forces are frequently dispatched into no man's land to gather intelligence, recover relics, or secure strategic positions. These operations are critical to maintaining the city's defences and preparing for potential offensives. New Antioch's resilience is tested daily by relentless attacks from the heretic forces and the challenges of maintaining its supply lines. The Heretic Legion's use of infiltrators, supernatural entities, and devastating weaponry ensures that the war is a constant struggle. Within the city, the Office of Propagation of Virtue vigilantly enforces church doctrine, rooting out heresy and maintaining order. Public executions of heretics serve as grim reminders of the city's resolve. Despite its fortifications and military might, New Antioch could not withstand a concentrated assault from Hell's combined forces. Its survival hinges on the infighting among Hell's rulers, who rarely achieve the unity needed for such an attack. The immortality of the archdevils prolongs the war, as they savour the suffering of mortals and orchestrate their campaigns with inhuman patience. New Antioch represents more than a strategic stronghold. It is a symbol of the faithful's determination to resist Hell's dominion. The city's continued existence inspires hope and unites desperate factions under the shared goal of defending creation. Even as the war drags on with no end in sight, New Antioch stands as a testament to the faithful's perseverance and unwavering belief in their cause. As the Great War rages on, visions and divine revelations drive many among the faithful to take up arms as trench pilgrims. These groups consist of individuals from various backgrounds, the devout, the desperate, and the guilt-ridden, who arm themselves and march towards the front lines under the guidance of prophets and prophetesses. While not officially sanctioned by the Holy Seal, Church blesses their crusades, recognizing their zeal and faith as valuable assets in the eternal battle against Hell. Trench pilgrims' processions are loosely organized groups, often inspired by the divine visions or driven by intense guilt and desires for redemption. They are armed with a mix of old and improvised weapons, from muskets to Molotov cocktails, and exhibit unmatched fervor on the battlefield. These processions frequently launch suicidal charges across no man's land, urged on by their leaders and castigators, who enforce discipline and devotion through fear and punishment. Many pilgrims wear the iron caparot, a distinctive hood that protects their minds from the horrors of Hell and doubles as a gas mask. The equipment symbolizes their readiness to confront both physical and spiritual threats unflinchingly. Death is not always the end for these warriors. Those deemed worthy by the 7th Metachrist are resurrected as a martyr penitent, becoming tireless, pain-immune fighters who continue their mission even after death. Trench pilgrim processions vary widely in their practices and equipment, often shaped by the saints they venerate. For instance, the penitents of pious revenge employ flamethrowers and incendiary ammunition in honour of Saint Olga, while the pilgrims of the Iron Path use hammers and nails, emulating Saint Rita of Cascia's suffering. The Theban Legion of Rome carries severed heads of heretics on their standards, competing to amass the most trophies in homage to Saint Maurice. Despite their chaotic organisation and high casualties, the Trench Pilgrims embody the faithful's unbreakable resolve. Their willingness to fight insurmountable odds and embrace suffering for the Redeemer's cause serves as both a tactical advantage and a powerful symbol of hope in the grim reality of the Great War. When the Hell Gate was unleashed on Earth, not everyone fled to the faithful. Some saw these new demons and saw a power greater than that of God. A third of humanity fell and began to worship the devils of hell. This is what made the Heretic Legion. A third of humanity has pledged loyalty to hell, forming the core of the Heretic Legions, a formidable force of damned mortals and infernal abominations. These legions represent the primary satanic military on Earth, with their ranks composed of twisted soldiers and nightmarish creations bound by unholy pacts to their devilish masters. Joining the Heretic Legions is a grueling process requiring prospective recruits to undertake a pilgrimage to the gates of hell. Along this path, known as the Valley of Tears, the recruits endure unbearable heat, their flesh seared and their spirits tested. Only those with the darkest hearts survive and are branded with the mark of their infernal masters, signifying their eternal damnation. For some, the journey continues beyond the gates into the lake of eternal flame, where they are transformed into the Anointed, elite warriors clad in Gehenna-forged heavy armour, their bodies permanently scarred by the fires of hell. The Heretic Legions combine mortal soldiers with demonic reinforcements. Their ranks include war beasts, grotesque creatures created from possessed animals, and artillery witches, who act as mobile weapons platforms in Hell's arsenal. The Legions also deploy choristers, horrifying entities formed from self-mutilated zealots. These creatures carry their severed heads, singing unholy hymns that weaken the resolve of their enemies and spread visions of eternal torment. The infernal armories supplied the Heretic Legions with weapons forged using Hell's dark metallurgy. From flaming blades to cursed bullets that infect and corrupt their targets, these armaments surpass the capabilities of mortal technology. Artillery witches launch devastating barrages, while war beasts and anointed lead brutal close combat assaults, wielding weapons of immense size and power. The Heretic Legion's greatest strength lies in their unholy unity of mortals and Hell's creatures. The synergy between humans and infernal beings allows them to dominate battlefields and extend Hell's influence. Cities corrupted by the Heretic Legions become grotesque parodies of their former selves, while idols to Hell's princes and factories producing endless weapons and war machines. The Heretic Legions are relentless in their pursuit of heaven's downfall. Despite occasional setbacks, their ranks are constantly replenished by the damned and the willing. Their unholy crusade seeks to bring parity between hell and heaven, ensuring that the Great War's horrors persist indefinitely. In their wake, they leave despair, destruction, and a stark reminder of the cost of defying divine order. Among the many horrors of the Great War, the Black Grail stands the deadliest and most feared plague unleashed upon creation. Born from the malevolent will of Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, the Black Grail embodies corruption, suffering, and relentless devastation. Unlike typical diseases, this infernal curse spreads indiscriminately, consuming all living matter it touches. The Black Grail emerges from Beelzebub's domain in the 7th layer of Hell, where vast swarms of demonic insects, hellflies, scorpions, and locusts are unleashed upon the world. These swarms spread rapidly, infecting their victims with tumours, boils, and weeping pustules. Flesh melts into puddles of agony while retaining sentience, leaving victims trapped in unending torment. After 9 days, the swarms turn cannibalistic, devouring one another until they dissipate. The aftermath is no less horrifying. As infected bodies, both human and animal, rise as grotesque undead vessels, controlled by Beelzebub's demonic will. These shambling creatures spread the Black Grail further, ensuring the plague's continuity and mocking the faithful's attempts to combat it. The plague's influence extends beyond physical devastation, giving rise to a twisted mockery of worship. Survivors who embrace the Black Grail from warbands devoted to Beelzebub, erecting altars from the remains of their victims. These altars, shaped like monstrous flies, stand as a monument to their depravity. Loot and grisly trophies are brought as offerings, mocking the faithful's sacred rituals. At the forefront of these warbands are the Knights of the Order of the Fly. These depraved individuals willingly embrace the plague, receiving corrupted weapons and armor directly from Beelzebub. Their devotion fuels the cult's efforts, ensuring its spread across the land. Despite their best efforts, the faithful have yet to find a cure or reliable defense against the Black Grail. Entire settlements are often sacrificed, burned to ash using flamethrowers fueled by holy anointed oil to prevent further contamination. These grim measures are a testament to the plague's overwhelming power. The Black Grail is more than a weapon. It is a symbol of Beelzebub's hatred for creation. Its unrelenting destruction challenges the faithful's resolve and underscores the stakes of the Great War. As the faithful struggle to contain its spread, the Black Grail continues to spread fear and despair, and leaving a legacy of unparalleled horror. The Iron Sultanate is a bastion of faith and resilience, standing as a shield against the forces of hell. Its defining feature, the Iron Wall of Zulkarnain. The Iron Wall is a colossal defensive structure imbued with divine power, erected to protect the faithful from the infernal onslaught. This wall symbolizes divine intervention and serves as the cornerstone of the Sultanate's defense and identity. The Sultanate emerged in response to the catastrophic opening of the Gate of Hell, which unleashed demonic forces upon the world. Following the prophecy of the Iron Wall, the faithful embarked on a mass migration to the sanctuary, enduring immense hardship to find safety behind its gates. While millions perished on the journey, those who survived formed the great Sultanate of the invincible Iron Wall. The structure's completion marked the consolidation of the Sultanate's power and its divine mandate to protect humanity. The Iron Wall itself is a marvel of engineering and faith. It is heavily fortified with artillery and manned with elite Azeb sharpshooters, vigilant against surprise attacks. Barracks housing janissaries are positioned along the wall, ensuring a swift response to any breach. In the event of a major incursion, the Sultan himself leads the defense, with his banners bearing the green flag of the Prophet. The Sultanate's defensive strategy relies on layered tactics. Azeb conscripts engage in feint retreats and skirmishes, harrying the enemy while the Sultanate's renowned artillery bombard from afar. If foes breach these defences, janissaries, the Sultan's elite troops, counterattack with devastating precision. This strategy reflects a balance of attrition and decisive strikes, designed to maximize the Sultanate's military strength. Beyond the wall, the Sultanate's forces conduct targeted expeditions into no man's land. These missions aim to reclaim holy relics, recover lost treasures, and eliminate key heretic leaders. While these operations are critical to the Sultanate's long-term goals, they are fraught with danger. Commanders of these expeditions, known as Yuzbasi, are selected for their merit and are renowned for their cold efficiency and unwavering resolve. The Sultanate society is deeply unified by faith. The mosques serve as a central spiritual strength, and the Iron Wall standing as a physical manifestation of divine protection. The House of Wisdom, a centre for learning and innovation, contributes to the Sultanate's defence by developing advanced weaponry and alchemical creations. These efforts underscore the Sultanate's commitment to blending faith with practical ingenuity. The Iron Sultanate represents the enduring spirit of the faithful, standing resolute against hell's forces. Its unyielding defence and strategic offences highlight its role as a critical ally in the broader struggle against the Infernal. Despite the immense pressure and constant losses, the Sultanate endures as a beacon of hope and divine intervention, ensuring humanity's fight for survival continues. The Iron City of Deet, a towering infernal fortress shrouded in corrosive smoke, houses the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. This council of 7 archdevils, each embodying a mortal sin, governs Hell's war against creation. These figures, known as the Heads of the Serpent, dictate the military campaigns of the Great War, orchestrating the chaos and destruction that flows from the Hellgate. The court's political landscape is perpetually unstable. Statues of the serpent heads representing wrath, envy, pride, gluttony, greed, sloth, and lust rise and fall as power shifts between archdevils. Only Mammon, the head of greed, has consistently retained his seat, while other positions are seeing constant upheaval. Ambitious devil lords rise and fall in treacherous games of betrayal, often incurring humiliating defeats that force them to start their ascent anew. The court's decision operates on a fragile majority vote, making alliances and rivalries crucial to retaining power. The influence of a head is also tied to the number of mortal followers corrupted to their cause, leading to fierce competition to spread sin and despair across the earth. This rivalry assures a constant reshuffling of the serpent's heads, with new pretenders eager to claim the glory of ruling. While Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, is the most powerful figure associated with gluttony, he refuses to take place in the court. Instead, he wages his own war against creation through the Black Grail, leaving the hungry throne to lesser devils. This act of defiance underscores the fragmented nature of Hell's leadership. The wretched, mortal slaves captured or sold to Hell, serve as fodder for the court's forces. Stripped of hope, they endure unspeakable torment, their minds shattered by glimpses of damnation. However, Hell's law offers a slim chance of redemption. Any wretch who slays a mighty foe gains their freedom, honoring the memory of the first rebellion, where angels waged war against heaven. The court's war strategy prioritizes the corruption and suffering of mortals. By limiting the size of war bands, Hell ensures the brunt of the Great War's carnage falls upon humanity. This tactic not only spites the divine, but also amplifies Hell's power, as more souls fall into sin and despair. The court influence waxes and wanes, but its unrelenting focus on undermining God's creation ensures that the war against the faithful continues without end. These 6 factions are the key players in the Great War of Trench Crusade. It is up to you who you side with, whether it be the Principality of New Antioch as a soldier, or whether you are led by visions to become a trench pilgrim. If you have fallen to sin in the Heretic Legion, or are in the cult of the Black Grail, spreading Beelzebub's creation, you must choose your warband and wage war against your enemies. So that's it. That's the world of Trench Crusade. This video has been slightly different than my other ones. It's a lot more long form, as you can tell, being nearly 30 minutes long instead of the usual 7. But I felt this world is so interesting, it needed this attention, and I haven't seen much talk about it. I've only seen one really good video that got me into this idea, or got me into Trench Crusade, and I'd love if more people knew about the setting. It's really interesting. The art, oh my goodness, the art is so cool. Like, look at this stuff, it's fascinating. Just, yeah, it reminds me of Forever Winter, but like, with Holy War themes. But yeah, if you liked the video, please let me know, because I would love to make more videos like this. It's actually been so fun making this, and learning all this lore. And yeah, there's tons more in the lore book that I have not gotten to yet, like the units, like observers or pilgrims or snipers, all these dudes, very interesting. Those will be coming in videos that break down each individual faction, which I intend to make soon. Like the paladins, they are really interesting. They might actually get a video to themselves. But yeah, that's all. And of course, if you like any other lore dives, feel free to let me know. I'm always in the mood for new content. I hope this has been a good introduction to the world of Trench Crusade, and I will see you in the next one.